Yes, this is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
The nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody, welcome to the show. It's Monday, start of a brand new week of disaster, as usual. Welcome Raiders to the show already, starting out with a massive TYT raid. Thank you. This is from Rashad Ritchie, Indisputable TYT. Thank you. Appreciate that. For those of you who do not know who I am, and why should you? I'm just a tiny ass streamer. Who does a little bit of the YouTube, the Twitch, and the Facebook. So I do the streams, and sometimes I cross the streams and bad things happen. But anyway, we do some fun stuff. Of course, we're going to do some politics. That's the majority of what I do here. So if you enjoyed Indisputable TYT and some of the other TYT shows, we do sort of a similar format here. I do want to talk about, of course, the newest... I haven't actually done a Trump story in a while. And this is Rudy Giuliani. That's fun stuff. We got Nancy Pelosi on student loan cancellation. I know it's a bit of an older story, but it actually affects a lot of people. We have AOC going after conservative Democrats. We got Tim Pool, massive expose on Tim Pool. And if we have time, maybe we'll watch the Steven Crowder nightmare video. So that's fun. So welcome to the show. Level 3 hype train. Holy shit, you guys and gals. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's see. Tempo Dan, thank you for the 5 tier 1 gifted subs. That's amazing. Thank you, Wiccan Dragon, for giving out the tier 1 sub as well. Crazy Hawaiian PA, thank you for that tier 1 sub. Thank you again, Wiccan Dragon, for the other tier 1 sub. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And the bits as well. Thank you, Blue Tech, the Belgian Dragon. Appreciate that. Also, for those who didn't know, I was actually on TYT's Power Panel a couple of weeks ago, and also on the Damage Report. So you might have seen me pop up there. Hopefully, I'll pop up in more different places. But I've actually been on a bunch of different shows. Ben Dixon's podcast as well. Maybe I should get on Ring of Fire. But I've been on the Humanist Reports. Dystopian Time, so that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I've been around, and I'm just actually one of the smaller partners, smaller affiliates to the Young Turks, and I enjoy doing so. So, all right, anyway, we should probably get to the stories, because those are the important things. That's what y'all are here for. Hey, thank you, Holy Beer Dragon, for subscribing with Prime. I do appreciate that. Well, this is a really, really good way to start your week. Absolutely, the kindness is overflowing, and I love it. All right, I do get around. I'm kind of like, no, I'm not going to make that comparison. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Okay? By the way, Medicare for all, just saying. Although it's weird to drink with that hand. Fun. But I do get around. You've been upping your visibility as of late. Good for you. Yeah, I've been doing what I can. And so it is a bit strange for me being somebody who's pretty introverted as well and fairly quiet. And so, you might watch the show and be like, what are you talking about? You quiet? No, I actually am. Yeah, I know. It's weird. I get around to his wife now. Oh, well, she's totally into it, so it's totally okay. 100%. All right. Anyway, let's not waste any more time. Let's do it. It's been a while, so why don't we check in with Rudy Giuliani? How's Rudy doing? Well, between a federal probe into whether he worked as an unregistered lobbyist for Ukrainian officials, the lawsuit from Dominion Voting Systems, and the fact that he can no longer practice law in the state of New York, he's apparently not doing very well. So now all of these legal troubles, they're all hitting him all at the same time. And, well, look, anybody who's had some legal trouble knows that that might be expensive. And there are reports out there that Rudy Giuliani is kind of going broke a little bit. But hey, that's okay. I'm sure he's got plenty of friends that would be more than happy to help him out, to bail him out, including his most prolific client, former President Donald Trump. We'll get to that. So now, more recent reports, by the way, for the Ukrainian probe. In fact, he said that he is willing to go to jail over it, even though he says, well, I didn't actually do anything wrong. Here's his quote, telling an interviewer with the NBC New York, I committed no crime. And if you think I committed a crime, you're probably really stupid because you don't know who I am. Do you know who I am? I demand to see the manager. Karen Giuliani, get that out of your head. Okay? I dare you. Somebody's going to need to Photoshop it, because I have no Photoshop skills, the Karen haircut on Rudy Giuliani's head. That needs to happen. You don't understand. It needs to happen. Not only that, but Giuliani was headlining many of Donald Trump's really disastrous lawsuits to try to overturn the election. Do I really have to bring up Fartgate? Where he's, farting in court, just loudly in front of everybody. I mean, that's pretty much how the whole thing went. Just a giant. So, pretty terrible, right? But, hey, it's the thought that counts, right? It repeatedly stepped up to the bat for Donald Trump. That's got to count for something, right? Oh, yeah. Don't forget, he was literally melting in front of people, too. His hair dye. So, all right. Now, this is according to Maggie Haberman in the New York Times. Apparently, aides are telling Trump that paying his former lawyer is, in fact, not an option. So, no help for you. Sorry. Also, she writes that they want to basically cut off Giuliani completely, which I already thought that happened. I already thought that since he wasn't paying him $20,000 a day or something like that, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. He's not winning. But hey, apparently, I guess this is the update to it. Here's what she tweeted: Giuliani allies are looking at Trump money, which, by the way, Trump brought in about $75 million, I believe, in donations. And I forget the period in which he brought these donations, but he brought in a ton of money. He is flush with cash that he has not spent on trying to overturn the election. And so he's sitting there with this mountain of money, and here's Rudy Giuliani going, please, sir, please, just a little crumb. That's all I need. Just a little crumb to help me pay my legal bills. From defending you and serving as a lobbyist for Ukraine. Here we go. So now he said, even if it isn't $82 million on our gas that Trump isn't helping Giuliani with legal fees, Giuliani's friends say he is close to broke, and his interview with Melissa Russo makes clear he knows he's in legal jeopardy. The reporter continued by saying Trump's aides have been clear that they see no mechanism for paying Giuliani's legal bills that isn't problematic for Trump, and they think that Giuliani took actions a lawyer should have known were problematic, even if the client wanted it. That is, of course, you all know that's Donald Trump's MO, 100%. Trump will say, hey, do this thing. The, aide or whatever would come back or lawyer and say, actually, sir, we can't actually do that. That's illegal. And Trump just comes back and says, well, do it anyway, baby. Why do I pay you? Well, he doesn't pay them, for one. And he tried doing that when he was president of the United States. And I remember a lot of the stories coming out where they'd be like, oh, yes, sir, sure, I'll do that. And then they don't do that. And Trump just stops asking. Because he forgot. Because he got fixated on something else. worst employer ever. And then, of course, again, he doesn't pay anybody. He's even stiffed the Freedom Girls, which were the kid performers at one of his rallies. There's several cities that haven't received money yet from his campaign that he owes them. And so, I mean, you'd have to be stupid to work for Trump, honestly, and expect to get paid. Now, this is, by the way, Haberman pointed out that this is of note in the context of Trump having a previous lawyer who had pleaded guilty and then cooperated with an investigation. Of course, they're referring to Michael Cohen. Okay, so I don't know. That's important because when you look at that context, it makes him seem like he's afraid of helping Giuliani because he thinks Giuliani is going to rat him out. So, but wait a minute, that seems like it's counterintuitive. A second here. Why wouldn't you help somebody out, if they've got leverage on you? So it's a couple of different things, right? And so I'm curious to what, if anything, Giuliani knows. And with him running out of money, it's possible he might know something. We might get the chance. But there is these, couple of different possibilities. He doesn't know anything, and Trump's just going to let Giuliani twist in the wind. Haha, sad day for you. I just threw you to the wolves. Your usefulness has come to an end, and now we will dispose of you. Or maybe he does know something. Well, now, wait a minute here. If he knows something, why doesn't Trump fund him? Well, Trump's a narcissist, and he believes that he's better and smarter than everyone else. Okay? I think he believes that in the end it wouldn't matter because he's untouchable. And just like Michael Cohen, by the way, went to prison, and Donald Trump didn't. So nothing negative happened to Trump at all. And so he just thinks, well, the same thing will happen with Giuliani. If he knows something, he'll say it. He'll get a bunch of media attention. Whatever, I'll get a bunch of media attention. And that's it. Whereas Giuliani will end up going to prison. For me. Again, there's a lot of assumptions here. But the important thing to note is Giuliani is desperate, for one. And it looks like Trump ignoring him because his usefulness has once again come to an end. So good luck with that, Rudy. I think you're going to need it. Sad. Baby. And of course, I have to add, hold on. So what happens when you rearrange your stuff here? Do I even have that anymore? I might not. Oh no. I guess I don't have that anymore. That's weird. Oh well. I can sit here and play with my soundboard all day, or I can actually do more news. You might want me to do that. Holy crap, everybody. Thank you so much for that hype train. Wicked Dragon with the 2,000 bits. Damn. Thank you, Blue Tech, the Belgian Dragon again. Thank you, Metal Kitty Mom. Wicked Dragon. I'm sorry, Wicked Dragoon. Oh, I love it. Lion Dog for the 100 bits. Terry Berry for the new follow. Once again, Wicked Dragoon with the 1,000 bits. Dread to Max for the 100 bits. And Metal Kitty Mom for the bits as well. That's awesome. 11 subs. 11 gifted subs and 5,300 bits. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You all are absolutely amazing and wonderful. And I do appreciate it. I still want to find that. Oh, yeah.
I have not loved this conversation.
That's what I was looking for. God damn. It was right there. I haven't used that in a while. All right. Anyway, let's go to Pelosi. Thank you, Consume Shrooms, for giving bits as well. I'm sorry if I missed it. There's a lot of stuff that happened. I'm not used to it. What would it take to get you to dye your... Well, for one, I don't have hair, for one, so that would be very, very difficult, if not impossible. Just say. Just say. All right. Anyway. Earlier last week, Speaker Nancy Pelosi got a little backlash after she claimed that President Joe Biden does not have the authority to cancel the $1.8 trillion in outstanding student loan debt on his own. In fact, here is this video last week.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. And I don't even like to call it forgiveness because that implies a transgression. It's not to be forgiven. Just freeing people from those obligations. So the question of who gets forgiven, to use the term of art that is out there, is a debate. Do we use whatever money there is for the broadest base of support of those with more people with even less debt or fewer people with more debt? That's a policy discussion. But the difference between the president can't do it. So that's not even a discussion. Not everybody realizes that.
Okay, so look, I'm gonna say something that's deeply inappropriate, and so I'm probably gonna get canceled. But all right, why does she sound like she doesn't have it together? Like, I understand that she's like 1,000,000 years old. She can't seem to speak very well anymore. Not like slurring words or anything like that, but she just like can't keep focused on a single thought or on what she's talking about. And I don't know if that's because and again, I'm maybe probably being like kind of ageist here, but she just doesn't seem like she's there. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where maybe she's focusing too hard on like, okay, I really don't have anything to say here. I'm just going to make something up and try to justify it the best that I can. But she's rambling. She's rambling, and it's not a good look. I ramble because this is my show and that's what I do. But she's out there talking about a very specific policy position that could help millions and millions of student borrowers lift an albatross off their neck. And she can't sound like she's got it together. I mean, for me, I don't know. Maybe not a nonsense point, but I felt compelled to make it. Yeah, cancel me if you want. Like, I don't really care. But all right. As far as the substance goes of what she was trying to say, no, That's not true. What she's saying is not true at all. Actually, you can, as the president, cancel student loan debt. In fact, as numerous people have pointed out, numerous groups, journalists, and organizations have pointed this out. In fact, one of them is the Debt Collective. So they had some pretty harsh criticism. Here's what they said. The truth is, Biden can cancel 100% of your federal student loans with a signature. We wrote the paperwork for him to do it. And it pointed to a draft executive order it released last month that would, of course, use his power in order to cancel student loan debt. And there's more. In fact, here's last September, Eileen Connor, Deanne Lunan, and Toby Merrill of the Project on Predatory Student Lending. Here's what they argued in a letter that, quote, contrary to Pelosi's claim, the president has the power to direct the Secretary of the United States Department of Education to exercise his or her existing authority to cancel federal student loan debt on a broad or categorical basis. The legal experts wrote this: we have consulted the statutory and regulatory framework governing federal student loan programs administered by the Department of Education, as well as the framework and controlling interpretations of the budgetary structure of these programs. We conclude that such a broad or categorical debt cancellation would be lawful and permissible exercise of the Secretary's authority under existing law. So basically just saying, yep, they can do it, and yep, Nancy Pelosi is absolutely lying about that. And not just Nancy Pelosi, but of course, Joe Biden, when he punts it and says, and understand, this is how the games work, right? So they constantly say, can't do that. Raising minimum wage. Oh, Senate parliamentarians said no. What they're doing is they're hiding behind process. They're saying, oh, look, the process. Turns out this thing that I ran on, student loan debt cancellation, which, by the way, it wasn't entire cancellation. It was the cancellation of $10,000 of student loan debt. So it really even wasn't that much. And so they run on this, and then they say, oh, look, sorry. Senate parliamentarian says I can't add a $15 minimum wage into this reconciliation bill. Parliamentarian is just a, advisor, not an elected official, but it doesn't matter. Senate parliamentarian said this, so I guess I can't do it. Not our fault. Sorry. And now they're saying, it takes an act of Congress, which of course, Congress is not interested in actually doing anything. And so they're kicking the can over to Congress, which again is not going to do anything. And so this is how it works. They know that the Senate is where bills go to die. Because, again, you don't have a clear majority. You have the Republicans that can do a filibuster. It's incredibly difficult to get over 60 votes for something. And you have, corporate Democrats. And that's the big problem here as well. Of course, we know Republicans aren't going to do anything. They're not even factored into the equation. Of course, they're a no vote. This is about Democrats. It's about corporate Democrats not doing the right thing. The Joe Manchins, Kirsten Sinemas, as well as, John Testers, people who get lots and lots of money to block progressive legislation from getting through. And in fact, they're ignoring, by the way, the fact that these corporate Democrats are blocking any sort of student debt relief. And the reason, of course, is, again, you have corporate donations, and then you have the federal government making money, making interest off of student loan debt as well. And you also have the companies that are contracted to collect the loans. They make a lot of money. The student loan servicers, your Navients, your Nelnets, and whatever else, your Sally Mays, they donate heavily to politicians. Look, we in America have made a college education not only a necessity for a good paying job, but we've also paywalled it behind an incredibly expensive system. But don't worry. Hey, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to loan 18-year-olds tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans, federally backed loans. What could go wrong? Except for everything. And the reason that I bring up that context is because of what Nancy Pelosi goes into next. So she's going to go on to defend this by using right-wing talking points. She said this: suppose your child just decided they at this time do not want to go to college, but you're paying taxes to forgive somebody else's obligations. You may not be happy about that. You might not be happy about that. Again, that's a conservative argument like, oh, socialism, you're going to pay for somebody else's stuff while you don't get any benefit? No, we're not going to do that. You know why we should do that? Because we're a society. We contribute of ourselves for the betterment of the rest of us, of society. And look, less people and massive amount of debt helps businesses, small business, jobs, the economy as a whole. It helps everyone. That debt, understand, is an albatross around people's neck. And the argument that people use that are against student debt cancellation is, oh, well, you took it out. It's a bad argument. Why? It's because our system incentivizes people to go and take out that debt in order to function in society. I remember, going through school, going through high school, guidance counselors, television, media, news, etc. All of them pushed college on people as the only way to be successful and to not be broke. Hey, if you want to make something yourself, you got to go to college. You got to go to college, or you want to go to college, but you got to take out these massive loans. It's the only choice. It's the only choice you have, unless you want to grow up to be a garbage man or whatever. Which, by the way, garbage men deserve a lot of respect. It's a good union job. So, sanitation workers. I'm with the workers. And so it comes off as a pretty elitist, right? And of course, you're talking about elitists. Nancy Pelosi is elitist number one. Okay. And so, but yeah, it's what this is. That was a generational lie, a generation defining lie. Because you have, millennials that are especially hard hit by the fact that, student tuition is the highest it's ever been. Over 1,000% more expensive than it was back in the 1960s and 70s. You have almost no state aid, very, very little actually. And had all of that pressure to go and take out these massive loans in an economy that doesn't have those types of jobs in order to allow you to pay those things back. I mean, yeah, there are some people that are lucky to get some of those, good paying, like tech jobs or whatever. But the vast majority, like you look at, in fact, the people that hold the most amount of debt happen to be black families. Why? Well, they end up having to take more out, or often getting targeted by these predatory for-profit colleges, and so you end up having black people who all they wanted to do was just be able to try to catch up, and they saw education. They were told that it was the great equalizer. Well, no, they ended up being even more behind than they were before. It's disastrous. And so now millions of people are stuck with a massive debt that they're never going to be able to repay. So let me give you a quote here. This is New Republic columnist Natalie Shore. She also had some criticism of Nancy Pelosi. She said, as I pointed out, she was echoing a fundamentally reactionary and individualistic argument that serves to undermine progressive taxation and social spending. Well, yeah, I mean, you also can't make the argument that, hey, we should tax the rich more so they can pay for, redistribution, essentially, right? That's progressive taxation. You tax the rich, you bring that money back into the economy, you distribute it to places that it's needed. When you make that individualistic argument, like, well, if your money goes to pay for somebody else's debt relief or whatever, well, you're not going to be happy about that. Well, that undermines progressives. But again, she's not a progressive. She's a political hack. And what she does is that she raises money for the Democratic Party. That's her entire purpose, is to squeeze donors. She's not a master legislator. She's there for one purpose and one purpose only: money, to get the money. And so here's what she's doing. She is, when she comes out here and hopefully I'm using this term the right way, because I see it I see it being used the wrong way. Gaslighting. It's gaslighting. Oh no, there's nothing Biden can do, despite the fact that he could literally do this today. Today. He's got the magic button, the magic pen. He just doesn't want to use it. He doesn't want to push the button. And even Chuck Schumer, by the way, they're getting a lot of pushback in this party. Chuck Schumer, certainly not a progressive. Chuck Schumer says, no, that's wrong. Quote, with the flick of a pen, President Biden could give a fresh start to tens of millions of borrowers drowning in debt. So now, Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren, I know, hiss, snake, boo. They both have been arguing for $50,000 worth of cancellation. Now, that's something. It's not what I want, but I certainly wouldn't be against them actually doing that. But obviously, they could call for getting rid of all of it. Because if you can use your executive authority to get rid of $50,000 or $10,000 of it, why couldn't you get rid of all of it? And of course, the answer to that is basically for political reasons. Political reasons. And that's what it is. And so he should get rid of all of it. And if you're a real politician that actually, follows the will of the people, he would get rid of it. He would cancel all of it. That is obviously the right thing to do. And then, of course, push to make colleges and universities tuition free, like Bernie Sanders was pushing for. And so, now, he's also teamed up, by the way, with Elizabeth Warren, again, boo, hiss, snake, in calling the administration to extend a moratorium on student loan payments, which is set to expire at the end of September. That pause, by the way, has saved student borrowers around $4.8 billion a month. That is a lot of money in interest. A lot of money. So, but again, Joe Biden has the ability to do it, and he's done nothing. And worse, he actually tried to pretend that he's doing something without actually doing anything about it. In fact, he directed the Education Department to craft a memo on the president's legal authority to cancel student loan debt. That document has yet to be released, meaning it's essentially a stall tactic. When are you coming out with that memo on your authority? Any day now. Any day now. They know they have the power in order to do this, but they're refusing to do it. This isn't on Republicans. We expect Republicans to be horrible, and of course they live up to their reputation of being horrible. This is 100% on Biden and the Democrats for dropping the ball on this one and not being interested at all in doing something about the massive amount of student loan debt in this country. Okay. Like Trump's healthcare plan, it never came up. Oof. True. There's more. Some good tea. Okay, yep, here we go. Congressman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Sunday went after members of her own party for deciding to skip town to go on vacation after allowing the eviction moratorium to end. In fact, here she is on CNN's Sunday Morning. Take a look.
Well, I think there's a couple of issues here. First of all, you are absolutely correct in that the House and House leadership had the opportunity to vote to extend the moratorium. And there were many, and there was frankly a handful of conservative Democrats in the House that threatened to get on planes rather than hold this vote. And we have to really just call a spade a spade. We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority.
All right, so 100%. What she's saying is, yeah, it's a given that Republicans are going to be against anything that helps regular Americans, of course. And, yeah, you can talk about that, how the Republicans are terrible, horrible, they're garbage, shit, et cetera, right? And I do. We talk about this a lot. However, the Democrats use that as cover. You see, the Democrats, it's because this has worked for so long, they default on, well, obviously, if we don't do something that we promise for our campaign, it's 100% the Republicans' fault. Well, no. You have 2/3 of the government control. You've got Congress, you've got the executive branch. Now, I understand, 50-50 in the Senate and all that. Sure, yeah, I get that, which you would need to overcome a Republican filibuster. But, of course, the reason that they can't overcome a filibuster is because they can't get rid of the filibuster. Why? Well, it's not because of Republicans. It's because of their own members, like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin and others that are like, no, under any circumstances, we are not going to get rid of the filibuster. We're going to make sure that nothing gets done. Of course. But again, the reason that they see it as the Republicans, it's Republicans' fault. It's because they don't want to do it in the first place. Nonetheless, Nancy Pelosi is going to once again go, oh, but Republicans. She said in a bunch of tweets on Saturday. She said that she had led a relentless campaign to extend the CDC eviction moratorium, only to be thwarted by the GOP. In an act of pure cruelty, Republicans blocked this measure, leaving children and families out in the streets. Well, yeah, of course Republicans blocked the measure. That's what Republicans do. You expect that. We all know. But look, here's the thing about this. When you get into the details, it's actually kind of worse than just, Republicans block it, right? Nancy Pelosi had this vote by unanimous consent. So what that means, that procedure means, is that just one Republican could say, no, I object, and destroy the extension. That's it. Gone. And of course, when that failed, Democratic leadership decided to adjourn the chamber for a 7-week vacation instead of holding a full House vote. Let's go on vacation. Why not? We work hard. No, you don't. You haven't really done a whole lot. I mean, comparatively, right, for the American people, you haven't done a whole lot. Not to deserve a 7-week recess. Imagine if you and I could get a 7-week paid recess like twice a year. That would be amazing. Amazing. But no, apparently they deserve that while getting paid $174,000 a year plus whatever they can get from cushy, corporate jobs like Joe Manchin or his shares from a company which allows him to make like double his salary. But no, they get a vacation and you don't. She also refused to say that if she would reconvene the chamber for a vote on extending that moratorium. And so 100%, yeah, the House dropped the ball. But it gets better. Nancy Pelosi is now blaming the CDC for not extending the moratorium. She tweeted, the CDC has the power to extend the eviction moratorium. As they double down on masks, why wouldn't they extend the moratorium in light of the Delta variant? It is a moral imperative to keep people from being put out in the street, which also contributes to the public health emergency. Oh, okay. So now it's the CDC. Right. Now the CDC, yes, they could. But there's an issue with that, the Supreme Court. I still think they should. I still think there should be an executive. Whatever tools you have, you should have used them. for this. Oh no, got to keep the powder dry. Can't do anything like that. Nope, can't use up our tools to go and actually do something about this. No, no, no. What this is literally the Spider-Man meme where everybody's pointing at each other. While 7 million people get evicted. I mean, that's what it's like. Nobody even knew or realized that this was going to happen. Nobody was paying attention to the imminent housing apocalypse that was going to come until, oops, last day. Oh, maybe we should do something. Oop. Oh no. And then they do nothing, of course. And now they're just pointing at each other saying, it's your fault. Your fault while I'm going on vacation. And then some people left for vacation early. But here, I've got one more AOC video.
Now, there is something to be said for the fact that this court order came down on the White House a month ago, and the White House waited until the day before the House adjourned to release a statement asking on Congress to extend the moratorium. This came after weeks. I sit on the Financial Services Committee, which has jurisdiction over housing. We had, the housing secretary there asking about the administration's stance. We asked the Biden administration about their stance, and they were not being really forthright about that advocacy and that request until the day before the House adjourned. And so the House was put into I believe, a needlessly difficult situation. And it's not just me saying that. Financial Services Chairwoman Maxine Waters has made that very clear as well. And so there's a couple of contributing factors here. We have governors who are also not getting this emergency rental assistance out in time, which is forcing this extension, what we would like an extension of the moratorium. The fact of the matter is that the problem is here. The House should reconvene and call this vote and extend the moratorium.
Yes. Well, look, I agree with her, of course. So now what's interesting is talking about the rental assistance. So I talked about this the other day. Up until, I think it was the end of June, the beginning of July, about $3 billion, only $3 billion of the $25 billion first tranche of rental assistance has gone out. That's it. Just $3 billion. Now, that's a lot of money, of course, but again, you have people, with billions of dollars of back rent that need to get paid. Millions of people, right? And so now people have been waiting for that rental assistance for literally months and haven't received it. And as a result, well, they couldn't pay their rent. They couldn't pay their back rent. Even if they were able to go back to work to get a job, after 6-7 months of not being able to pay the rent because they didn't have their work because of the pandemic, well, you still got to pay that back rent. And if you don't, you're going to get evicted. And that's what's happening right now. They're getting evicted. The landlords don't care. And let's be honest, most landlords are not who you think of, like the mom and pop, spare. Oh, we got a spare house. We're going to rent it out to people that are in need. People, we're going to make a little bit of extra money, but don't worry. Bob here is going to be there to fix your sink anytime you get a clog. It'll be all right. No, these are big corporations. These are like slumlord Jared Kushner's. Okay. And that's the problem. These are big corporations that have been buying up, by the way, a lot of spare open homes. They've been buying up these homes. They've been driving up home prices, and they've been turning people into renters. And I know spare house, it's also one of those things where if you got a spare house, well, that is a certain level of privilege that you have. You know what I'm saying? And so that makes me realize it's really hard to feel sympathy for that. They're not losing their homes. The federal government has really failed the renters during this pandemic. And so, what can they do? And again, a lot of people don't realize that money has not been released. They go, well, what are you talking about? We gave these people, so much money to sit home on their ass. Why couldn't they pay their rent? For one, the unemployment benefits didn't actually amount to more than minimum wage, okay? Or I should say living wage, actually, with everything put together and all the benefits. Plus you had the three, if you're lucky enough to get it, stimulus checks. But remember, there's nowhere in this country, no state in the union where you can actually be able to afford an apartment on a minimum wage salary, on minimum wage. That's a sad fact in America. The rent is too damn high, Mr. Jimmy McMillan, going back to that guy. And he was right. The rent is too damn high. And it still is. And now, with the limited support that the American people have actually gotten, and the ineffectiveness of local, governorships and states and cities to actually, send that money out to the people who need it, this is why we're having this housing apocalypse. It's a disaster all around. And now, what are we going to do for the 7 million people that are going homeless as we speak, unhoused? They're going to end up sleeping in the streets, in the tents. They're going to fill up the jails. They're going to actually end up costing billions more in enforcement. This is an absolute disaster. And yet Congress decides they just want to point fingers at each other while going on vacation. It's a total shit show. Now, I want to give credit here to Cori Bush for literally camping out on the steps of the Capitol for the last few days. And for AOC, of course, for calling out the corporate Democrats and talking about it. And basically she was referring to Pelosi when they said, well, it's not the Republicans' fault. It's not just the Republicans. It's the corporate Democrats too. Joe Manchin, the people that won't get rid of the filibuster and won't bring this up, like Pelosi in the House, to try to, expand this moratorium or extend it. And to Joe Biden, of course. They all, with the exception of a few progressives and others, have just said, fuck poor people. And that's what we're running on today. It's disastrous. Let's go to Tim Pool. Oh, well, thank you for the super chat. I was really hoping Democrats wouldn't squander the majority. We're so screwed in the midterms. Yep. Sadly. You might be right about that one. All right. Time for the beanie. There's a pretty good article out in the Daily Beast written by Robert Silverman that is probably the most thorough takedown I've ever seen of Tim Pool. So now some of you might be like, who's Tim Pool? Tim Pool is actually a massive YouTuber who has a massive channel, actually several channels. And what he does is he has a pretty particular grift. He's pretending to be a centrist, an enlightened centrist, a disaffected liberal, while spouting alt-right talking points for what is essentially clicks and engagement. And so that's the overarching theme that you're going to see here is everything that Tim Pool does is for Tim Pool and to prop up Tim Pool. And so let's start with some parts of this story that I want to read here. Here's what Silverman writes about Pool. For a former digital media journalist who originally built up his name with the on-ground reporting and live streaming, including stints at Vice and Fusion, Tim Pool now postures as a rational centrist, or a disaffected liberal, who grew to loathe the excesses of the left. If you buy Pool's branding, he stands in contrast to the bulk of his journalistic peers, evil, liars, he says, who supposedly capitulated to the agendas of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Democrats, big tech companies, feminists, and the like. Oh, yes, he sounds such a centrist, so much like a centrist. Oh, yes, absolutely. This self-generated mythology, Silverman points out, an anti-authoritarian truth teller whose successes stem from confronting the machine, as Pool puts it, bear little semblance to reality. Contrary to the overall manner in which Poole portrays himself, he was not an intrepid field reporter and streamer who barreled into conflict zones filled with an unshakable desire to ferret out the real story. Poole was at times reluctant to leave the safety of the hotel room, according to several of the nearly 30 former co-workers and other acquaintances from the past decade who spoke with the Daily Beast. He'd come across as uninterested in interviewing subjects or doing much research. During shoots, Poole's head was frequently buried in his phone, diligently tracking social media, only to blame coworkers or equipment when he couldn't live up to his clippings. Poole's main focus when reporting, those on the ground with him said, was simply drawing attention to himself. So this is already great. I love this story, again, for a couple of different reasons. For one, it's always just fun to dunk on Tim Poole. Because this guy's, look, he's the epitome of know-nothing journalism, right? That's not a thing. I just made that up. But it's where you come out there and you basically know absolutely nothing. You don't do your research. And you just go rant at a camera. Yeah, okay, that might be somewhat entertaining, but it actually is incredibly harmful. But there's more. Get a load of some of the things that his former coworkers had said about him. Quote, a coward and a phony, a joke, staggeringly arrogant, totally full of shit, not smart, and a bumbling doofus. Oh, I love this. That's what his former coworkers said about him. Most did so in the condition of anonymity because given how this guy has a massive, massive right-wing audience, well, they feared reprisals by Poole and harassment from his fan. Again, the guy has about 3.3 million subscribers. That is a lot. 1.5 billion views, and by all estimates, hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue per month. In fact, for the month of August 2020, he earned $600,000. That's why he can afford his own skate park and compound in his gated community. Oh, I couldn't imagine making that much money. Oh my God, I don't know what I would do with it. I mean, I wouldn't do a skate park. Honestly, that's a ton of money, which means he's doing something incredibly well. So he's bringing in the cash, and again, I don't have a problem with, I don't have a problem with people having money or making money. I have a problem in how you do it. Like if you're crushing your workers, if you're doing so dishonestly, you're making your money off lies and bullshit. Yeah, then I'm going to have a problem with that. Okay. But, he does make money, and he makes a lot of it, and he does incredibly well at it. Whatever Tim Poole is, that is one fact. He's really good at boosting himself and his own brand and getting a lot of views. And apparently that seemed to be his only focus. As Silverman writes, Poole has discovered, and this goes back to the know-nothing journalism, a style of commentary and audience where a lack of knowledge or journalistic skills might not prove an impediment to success. In some ways, incuriosity and incapacity serve as valuable attributes in this medium. Meaning that basically the less you know, I guess the more successful you can be, the less time you put into research. It makes no sense. But he adds, not solely because of the political valence, but thanks in part to how YouTube itself functions, rewarding the kind of high volume, sensationalized, and sloppy churn Poole specializes in. See, this is what I hate about social media. That's what I hate about being on social media. And look, that's what YouTube is. Unfortunately, it is a version of social media. And YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff. So what I hate about it, it turns out that knowing what you're talking about it's not a popular thing. It's kind of boring, actually. Being calm, being rational, explaining how politics actually functions or how the political system actually functions, how it works, and how you can make, or affect real change. Boring. I mean, doing a normal segment, I might as well put people to sleep. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. I mean, people who do that, who actually try to explain how you can really affect change and how things actually work, well, that's, again, we're boring. To be successful, you have to be entertaining, and you have to be not informative, just entertaining. Information, no, it doesn't matter. The algorithm says, fuck your facts. Give me your hottest take and make it even hotter. Put some more heat on that. In fact, according to Pool, YouTube actually promotes his work to the front page. Work. I call it work, right? With quotation marks, because there really isn't. If you're not doing any research and you're not vetting and you're not even pushing back when you have an insane cadre of super right-wing guests, then yeah, you're not doing anything. You're not doing your job. Unless, of course, you don't see telling the truth as your job, being a journalist as your job. You just see, well, did I get engagement? How much engagement did I get? How much revenue did I get? How many views did I get? And that's it. That's all they care about. But here's what he said in a live stream back in December of 2020. Quote, I know for a fact the YouTube algorithm drives the majority of my content. I wish it drove my content more. I'm losing subs. I have a steady, I'll get a bump, and then I'll go back to just slowly, dripping subs as people do. I pretty much plateaued on this platform. I'm not going to get any bigger on YouTube. 162,000 is pretty much where I'm going to end up staying. And a lot of it is because YouTube just does not prioritize my, it doesn't even consider my content worthy of being pushed through the algorithm. And that's a sad fact. Whereas, people like Tim Pool constantly get pushed by the algorithm, promoted. And it would be one thing to say, okay, look, on the merits, okay, maybe my channel isn't great or whatever, or I'm not entertaining, whatever, based on the merit. And that's why some people have more subscribers. I don't begrudge anybody that, right? If you're a better person, if you're a better journalist, if you're better at doing this than I am, and there's a lot of people that are excellent at what they do, much, much better than I am. I don't begrudge that at all. I think that's great. You deserve to get those views. You deserve to get that revenue. You deserve that. But the problem with YouTube is that it's all artificial. It is all controlled by algorithms. It is all controlled by people at the top pushing buttons, elevating some content over others. And it's not, and so it's not an even playing field. It's not a fair playing field. It's not based on merit. It's completely arbitrary. And that's the problem here. And that's the big problem. And, Tim Pool, again, it's a show, it's a performance, and he's boosted because I think, personally, I don't think YouTube likes progressives. I think they prefer the right wing, mainly because of economic issues. YouTube is a corporation, and a lot of us progressives say tax corporations, break up Google, that's not really savvy towards their interests. And so, of course, they deprioritize that kind of content, that kind of content, and in favor of so-called rational centrists. But if anything, he's not a rational centrist. He has been calling for, or I should say he's been calling everything, we're one step closer to the Civil War. By the way, that gets me to January 6th. January 6th. Here's what Silverman writes. Throughout the fall of 2020, the wildly successful YouTube pundit has spent countless hours hyping the blinkered legal strategies and half-baked fantasies about voter fraud that has animated the online right. And so here's how it kind of works on that. So you have, a couple of outlier channels. You've got like Gateway Pundit, you've got Project Veritas, and some of these things. And all of that, the way the right-wing media ecosphere works is that, of course, you've got a couple of shady billionaires that fund a majority of these channels. And then what happens is that talking points that appear, it could be on 4chan, right? Or are the Donald on Reddit. and that will filter up through the different hosts and end up on Fox News. And so this is how it works. And of course, you also have, as I mentioned, the cadre of different hosts on the right wing that would come in, being hosted by Tim Pool to his 3.3 million plus audience that will come in and get all of this exposure, and they'll cross-pollinate and they'll talk to each other and they'll promote each other. And that's how it works. We don't have that on the left. We don't have the money here. We don't have big daddy billionaires generally, and we don't have any sort of cohesion when it comes to left-wing news. We're all basically fighting for the scraps from people who don't have a lot to give. Honestly, it's amazing why anybody would think that there's any sort of money in doing progressive politics. Trust me, I've been waiting for my Soros check for years. And it's still, I'm beginning to think that it ain't going to come. Okay. But as far as Pool is concerned, I mean, yes, he doesn't have Big Daddy Billionaire, but he has built it off being right wing and catering to those same kinds of people. In fact, here, to go back to what we were talking about, in each video, Pool tries to separate himself from hardcore conspiracy theorists, of course, to stay on the good side of YouTube, by saying, I'm just commenting on the news. But his commentary often goes, again, to, oh, this is an example of the Civil War. It's going to, anytime now, there's going to be a race war, all this crazy stuff. So now, Silverman also writes, what Pool kept secret from his younger, overwhelmingly male, decidedly right-leaning audience during this time is that he seemed to have a pretty good idea what might happen on January 6th. He said, quote, dude, I've had messages from people saying that they've already got plans to rush to D.C. as soon as November 3rd goes chaotic, Pool said in early September during a recorded conversation. A few minutes later, Pool added the right-wing militias, the Oath Keepers, the Three Percenters, and just the Proud Boys and Trump supporters. They are going to rush full speed into D.C. They're going to take the White House and do whatever they can in paramilitary. The following month, Pool used his YouTube platform to say that Oath Keepers had been unjustly smeared by the Southern Poverty Law Center. He habitually comes to the defense of the Proud Boys as well, Silverman wrote. Which is odd because on November 4th, Tim Pool publicly derided and dismissed reports that the far right was actually going to the Capitol. Quote, what do you think they're going to do? Asked Pool. It's so stupid. Well, we knew what they were going to do. They were planning on an attack. They were talking about it for quite some time to storm the Capitol. And then they did it. We weren't surprised, but it's apparently everybody was surprised, except for Tim Pool, who knew it was going to happen, but still, well, obviously had to lie to his audience. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm an enlightened centrist. But understand, he knew because it's the audience that he cultivated. In fact, Silverman writes, despite his continued insistence on being viewed as a center-left truth teller, a daily review of hundreds of hours worth of Pool's commentaries revealed a consistent, if broad, eschatology. No matter which ginned-up atrocity is roiling the online right in a given day, Pool routinely will deem it a crucial sign pointing towards a civilization-ending crisis or imminent civil war. Sometimes he'll declare that a civil war is already underway, and who is to blame? Of course, a vaguely defined yet omnipresent and menacing left-wing other. Let me tell you what, I wish the left wing was half as powerful as these right-wingers say that it is. Honestly. Oh, it's the far left. Oh, really? Where's the far left? We're not in any positions of power. We got like 5 members of Congress. Who's this far left you keep talking about? Honestly. No, we don't have that kind of power. But it sets up the boogeyman for people to be scared of. And that's what conservatives, that's what really sells to conservatives. Disgust. So that's why social issues do really well. Anti-trans stuff, anti-gay stuff. because they can gin up this, feeling of disgust for their audience and fear. In fact, let's see. Here's what he writes. Poole depicts people in groups on the left as potential bomb-tossing radicals or authoritarian lunatics. Cultural shifts or gestures towards social and racial justice will lead to chaos and gulags stocked with the victims of morality policing, just like the McCloskeys, according to Poole. And says that if the police are now siding with terrorists in BLM and Antifa, perhaps the time has come to flee the cities and stock up on firearms, as Poole himself has done. And again, an example of his rhetoric is where he said, quote, "They will never stop coming. They will take your job. They will come for your parents. You will do something wrong. They'll fire your mom. They will come to your house with fireworks and guns." Understand that that's exactly what riles up conservatives. Now, Lori Penny, quoted in this piece as well, who's a reporter and writer that covers people like Tim Poole and actually worked with Tim Poole, said this: "It's a trajectory I've seen before, almost always with young and youngish men who are so laser focused on making their own careers that they arrive at racism and misogyny almost by accident, because that's what gets the most clicks." And so I go back and immediately think not just of Tim Poole, but also of Dave Rubin, for example. Dave Rubin, well, had his eye on money, right? That's all he wanted to do. He wanted to make some money. So he left TYT and went and immediately said, well, this is why I left the left. But he blamed it on the same things Tim Poole talks about, wokeism, the left being too radical, Antifa. It's the same grift. It's the same grift, and it works. And again, that's all they're about. I remember the stories of Dave Rubin being incredibly lazy on set. Okay? Not doing research, as well as wanting 6 figures for doing an hour show a week. One 1 hour show a week. 6 figures. Now, as far as Tim Poole is concerned, once again, he wanted a lot of money, he wanted a lot of attention for doing very, very little. In fact, according to former colleagues, quote, "He was bringing nothing to the table. It felt like we were being conned." There was a deficit of ideas from Tim Poole, another former member of Vice's video team said. There was frustration about his inability to do a repeat hit like his coverage of Occupy Wall Street. He still had his fans in upper management, and the ability to remain in their good graces also pissed people off. Specifically, how seemingly oblivious the upper management and the execs were to the fact that Tim Poole was a total hack, as the former longtime editorial staffer put it. And by the way, that's just his work ethic. Here comes his antics. When Poole was given an early version of Google Glass, he would stroll around the office broadcasting his coworkers' activities live, which of course it's a newsroom where people are working. And they had to literally tell him, buzz off, dude. I'm busy. I'm working. I don't even give you consent to film me. Stop. He also would cosplay by putting on a flak jacket in the office. Vice provides reporters working in conflict zones with protective gear. Poole would wear a flak jacket in the office. Per multiple Vice sources, several employees thought it laughable and made him look like a poser. Others were a little angry because, of course, you had Vice reporters that were literally arrested in some of the places they had went to. And in their eyes, Poole treated the gear as nothing more than a cosplay outfit. At one point, he also brought in hacker-turned-Nazi troll Andrew Weave Arenheimer to the Vice newsroom and paraded him around. The former longtime editorial staffer felt Poole was showing off, as if to say, check it out, I'm hanging out with Weave. I'm so plugged into internet culture. And oh yeah, he also allegedly kidnapped a cat. For the cat story, I would definitely check out Hey It's Vadim on YouTube. So, Hey It's Vadim. He did a great video about this, and he's talked about Tim Pool extensively. And so I would definitely check him out. He's formerly Creationist Cat, but he's done a lot of reporting on this, especially the attempting to kidnap a kitty. So, and that's after his most recent project had imploded. And so, look, there's a lot more. This is an incredibly well-sourced, researched article. I could go on, but basically, y'all know this guy's an obvious grifter. Not just an obvious grifter, but also a danger to the discourse because of how little he knows. The worst thing about him, too, is the fact that he doesn't care to know. He doesn't care to know about the things that he's talking about. He's got his narrative. He's got the talking points. And those talking points are based on what's going to get him the most engagement and the most clicks. That's it. He's speaking to an audience not because he cares about the issue, but again, views, revenue, attention, and it shows in the debates that he's had, by the way, that he has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, and he doesn't care to learn as well. You know what his top 5 sources are for commentary? Daily Mail, which is basically a British like rag, a tabloid. Fox News, which of course lies to people. The New York Times, okay, I guess that's the enlightened centrist part. Oh, look, I sometimes use New York Times as a source. Andy No Tweets, and the New York Post, which is another Murdoch-owned outlet. So that was between June 25th and August 31st of 2020, and that was after somebody watched 300 Tim Pool videos and saw what he sourced. And he puts out a lot of content. And it's because, and you know what? I couldn't imagine putting out that much content. And it's because I actually have to do research. I guess it's pretty easy to put out videos if you don't have to do fuck all to actually get the information. So yeah, that's who Tim Pool is. He is a very wealthy, cowardly grifter who doesn't give a damn about what he's talking about or the country and doesn't understand the damage, either doesn't understand or doesn't care about the damage that he's actually done to discourse in this country. So I suggest you read the rest of the article. I'm going to post it in the description of this video. Please give that a read if you can. It's very enlightening about who Tim Pool is. So for that, that's all I got. That's all I got on this one. Unfortunately, we don't have time for the Steven Crowder nightmare video. I'm sure you've all seen it, but it's awesome. So, yeah, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. I really appreciate you coming in, the readers, and all the new follows that I got here. You just caught me at a time where we had to do a little bit of a deep dive into Tim Pool. Dax Alvarez says, this is what I watch. The Majority Report, TDR, TYT, Indisputable, Vosh, the guy with the square jaw. Wait, is that literally his channel, the guy with the square jaw? The Rational National, and you. Well, thank you, Dax. I really appreciate that. I'm glad I'm worthy of a watch. I do appreciate that. Sometimes I wonder, why do people watch me? I know. I shouldn't think about that. Whoosh bad. Whoosh bad. No, I've had good conversations with him. Obviously, I don't agree with everybody's takes, but what I try to do is I try to build discourse with other lefty creators because I think that we should all work with each other. Just kind of piggyback what Lance, of the Source was talking about the other day, is that I would like us to all form into kind of this leftist Voltron and crush the opposition on policy, of course, and online, so that we can actually have some wins. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be going in that direction. So a lot of people will have a lot of problems with their quote unquote favorite podcast or YouTube or whatever. Let's just say this. I'm always happy to have an open, honest, good faith conversation with anyone on the left. And so I've had a lot of people on the show that certain people might not like. And, you know, again, you got to try to put that stuff past you, because at the end of the day, it's all about policy. It's all about getting the things that's going to make people's lives better. And that's what I'm about. I'm about trying to make people's lives better. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. I really appreciate that. The channel and chat have been very good for my mental health, to be honest, and I really appreciate what you do. Well, thank you, Marty Donner. I really do appreciate that. Your words. Thank you so much. The Daily Hate Mail. True. We shouldn't think of people like Poole as dumb. They're purely mercenary. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. He tried to kidnap a cat. Allegedly. There's two people that were alleging this one, and there's lawsuits going on about it. So, yeah. So, all right. Anyway, we should raid into somebody here on Twitch if you're still around. Kathleen, thank you for the 1,000 bits. Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's incredibly kind. Wow. You have been amazing. Jeff, you have so many followers here. I'm proud. Thank you, Tiffany Star. By the way, everybody, give Tiffany a follow. She is very, very based, and she does excellent political commentary, as well as hilarious gaming videos. So definitely check her out. And by the way, she's also on a lot of panels. So she does a lot of panel stuff, and she crushes it every single time. So please give her a follow and follow what she's doing online, all the different debates and stuff. She's killing it. She's killing it over here. Holy Bear Dragon, thank you. Thank you for the 200 bits. Again, I really appreciate that. Let's do a raid. Let's raid into... Let's see. The Namiki show could use a little bit of love, so I think we'll raid into that. We'll do all that, and we'll see you all tomorrow. So let's start her up. And thank you again for people over at TYT for the fantastic raid. I really appreciate that. All right, everybody. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all tomorrow.
Wait, you're getting nervous, man.
Mike Pounds.
Tighten up my knees. I like my knees tight.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Please clap.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.